The Great War, which swept through Europe and other parts of the world between 1914 and 1918, brought an end to the absolute dominance of Europe in world politics, saw the rise of the United States as a global power, and irrevocably changed European culture. So in this video, we'll be talking about the causes of World War I. Later videos will discuss other characteristics of the Great War so that you can look at this event from a variety of perspectives. When we discuss causation in history, it's important to remember first that no event in history pops up in a vacuum. Nothing just happens. Instead, everything is tied to the events that came before it. And causation can be divided into two basic categories. For any event in history, there are long-term causes and short-term causes. Long-term causes are the set of events or factors that make a larger event possible. They make it thinkable. They set the stage, but they do not make the event inevitable. Short-term causes are the more immediate causes of an event, and they do make an event inevitable. They drive the event forward, sort of the snowball effect. So we'll start in our discussion of World War I with the long-term causes of the war. And there are four basic categories for the long-term causes of World War I. The first was the creation of Germany and the shift in the balance of power that new nation entailed. The second was tension in Western Europe. The third, tension in Eastern Europe. And then the fourth was the creation of something that has become known as the alliance system, capital A, capital S. So let's start with that first category, the creation of Germany and the shift in the balance of power that new nation entailed. So Germany did not exist as we know it until 1871. Instead, for most of European history, what we conceive of as Germany, or Central Europe, was really just a collection of German-speaking states that were loosely organized into the Holy Roman Empire. At its peak, the Holy Roman Empire included more than 300 German-speaking states, each with its own autonomous ruler, but nominally under the control of the Holy Roman Empire. The two most powerful of these states were Prussia and Austria. So in the mid to late 19th century, Prussia would move to incorporate or to conquer other German-speaking states to create something that would become known as Germany. Over the course of about a decade, Prussia and Otto von Bismarck would take charge of uniting Germany into a single nation state, or in this case, empire. In the process, Germany went to war and won against the Danes, against Austria, and against France, creating not just a new nation state in Europe, but an incredibly powerful nation state, a new force to be reckoned with in Europe. The Congress of Vienna, which several decades earlier had attempted to establish a balance of power between European states. The Congress of Vienna ended the Napoleonic Empire, resized some of the nation states of Europe, and tried to keep them in check in terms of this balance of power, was upset by the unification of Germany. It shifted the balance of power. Germany became not just a military power, but an economic and industrial power as well. And that made some of the other nations in Europe nervous. Which leads us to our second long-term cause, tension in the West. Germany came into conflict in a variety of ways with both France and England, the other two power players in Western Europe. If you'll remember, the creation of Germany had entailed the defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War, 1870 to 1871. And the French saw this as a humiliation. They'd been humiliated by the Germans, and the Germans had seized the territory of Alsace and Lorraine as part of the war. So there was a humiliation that the French felt, and a resentment and a desire to get back at the Germans for this humiliation. And that soured the relationship between France and Germany. France was itching to regain their dignity and their land, and looking for any opportunity to do so. There was also a rivalry between Germany and England. When William II became Kaiser, or Emperor, of the German Empire, he wanted nothing so much as to be the #1 European global power. He wanted to be the most powerful nation in Europe. This was over Bismarck's protests, who didn't particularly think that a conflict with England was a good idea. But it didn't matter, because William did not share Bismarck's sentiments. He felt an extreme rivalry with Britain and would engage in a naval arms race to attempt to build up the military strength of Germany in order to challenge the superiority of Britain. It didn't work. Britain had a tremendous head start on this kind of naval arms race, and for every ship that Germany built, Britain could build 2. What it did do, though, was to create resentment against Germany, to create suspicion. It set up an incredibly strong rivalry between England and Germany that would contribute to the atmosphere of tension in Western Europe. So you have a rivalry between Germany and France, and a rivalry between Germany and England that made Western Europe very, very tense in the years leading up to the First World War. There was equally tension in Eastern Europe, specifically in a region known as the Balkans. The Balkans are the territory of southeastern Europe that were, in the late 19th century into the early 20th century, under the control of the Ottoman Empire. But the Ottoman Empire was an empire in decline. It was dying slowly because it wasn't modernizing, it wasn't keeping up with industrialization. There was conflict within, power struggles, corruption. So the Ottoman Empire was weakening. It was often referred to as the sick man of Europe by the late 19th and early 20th century. And in the Balkans region, there was the growth of something we call nationalism, specifically Slavic nationalism. But this sense that nations in the Balkans wanted to break away from this Turkish empire in order to establish their own nation states. In Serbia, there was a sense that they wanted to be the so-called Prussia of the Slavs and to create a Slavic nation state or a Slavic world that was free of control from the Turks, Austrians, and Russians. So there's conflict in the Balkans between the Ottoman Turks and these nationalist groups in the Balkans. As the Ottoman Empire weakened, they were also closely watched by the Austrians and Russians, who were interested not necessarily in creating new nation states or in helping the Slavs of the Balkans free themselves, but Austria and Russia were more interested in taking over these territories for themselves. So there was a great deal of rivalry between Russia and Austria-Hungary over influence in the Balkans. They attempted to deal with this rivalry with the creation of something known as the Three Emperors League that united Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia in a group that met to discuss common concerns, but which was obviously complicated by the rivalry between Russia and Austria-Hungary, particularly over the Balkans. The Three Emperors League would fall apart on multiple occasions. After the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 and 1878, for example, when the Treaty of San Stefano resulted in a complete Russian triumph and a tremendous amount of Slavic territory in the Balkans being given over to Russia to control. In particular, the Treaty of San Stefano created a huge Slavic state called Bulgaria that was under Russian control. This concerned Western Europe and Austria, who feared that these new states would become nothing more than puppets of the Russian Empire. They revised the Treaty of San Stefano with the Treaty of Berlin, which reduced Bulgaria in size, but still gave it over to Russia, gave Bosnia-Herzegovina to Austria, Cyprus to Britain, and Tunisia to France. This maintained a nominal balance of power, but undermined the Three Emperors League. This made Bismarck nervous, and he would turn to new alliances, or the fourth long-term cause of the First World War, to deal with these nerves. We will look at the alliance system and then the short-term causes of World War I in the next video. Thank you.